So what's up? We got Cobra Kai Season 4 recap. We've done the recaps for Seasons 1, 2, and 3. If you want to see them, check down in the link below. Or check on the video playlist in the list above this one. So if it says check, I'm going to create a playlist for these. So yeah, so this basically starts off with Terry Silver calling Crease, calling Terry Silver from the last episode, but Terry hangs up on him because obviously he doesn't want to bring his past back into his life. So, and if you haven't seen my reviews for Karate Kid Part 3, check them out. Also, got a haircut, so check out my reviews. So yeah, so Johnny and Daniel are teaming up to take down Cobra Kai at the All Valley tournament. But obviously, their styles mixed with Daniel's styles mixed with Johnny's style does not fit like a Rubik's Cube. It's just all mixed and matchy. Which, yeah, and also Hawk, who after leaving Cobra Kai to join up with Miyagi-Do, who joined up with Johnny. So, yeah. Well, on a fight, Daniel with Johnny, he tells Hawk to burn bridges, since he burned bridge with everyone there. So he decides to build a bridge in Okinawa, an Okinawan sparring deck. I think that's what it's called. So yeah, so Crease decides to go visit Terry Silver himself and discovers that he's a new man named, and his girlfriend Cheyenne calls him Terrence Silver. And he's like, yeah, Terrence. And he's like, hey, what'd you call your Cobra Kai? What'd you call your dojo again? The Viper? And he's like, Cobra Kai. And the guy next to Crease is like, it's adorable. And he's like, Cry doesn't just leave you. It's your way of life. Yeah, right, Crease. Yeah, right. Right, Crease. So he tried to say, hey, let's team up. The Terry Silver I know would never let that guy called Cobra Kai adorable. He's like, yeah, no. I spent my whole life trying to torment a teenager over a high school karate tournament. I think Terry's realizing how insane this is. So he's like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna team up with you. So yeah, so in episode 2, we get no Miguel, no Sam, no Hawk, no Dimitri, just Daniel and Johnny. And obviously the Cobra Kai. So Daniel is teaching John. He's like, hey, if I can teach you Miyagi-Do, you'll teach me Eagle Fang. So he's like, deal. So he teaches him the long history of Miyagi-Do, about the first ever Miyagi, Shimpoto Sensei. And once they're done, Johnny's like, right? He's like, hey, I'm excited to learn about that long history of Eagle Fang. So he basically, first he trains him, takes him to some random building where I guess the Eagle Fang dojo is. So I guess they couldn't use the park anymore. I guess that was the only season 3 set that they could use. I guess Johnny, because we never see that park again after episode 3. So I guess that was only after season 3. So I guess that was only a season 3 deal, because now Johnny has this building out of nowhere that we never find out how he got. Like, he just has it, and we're supposed to be like, okay, Johnny bought a building off screen, but how? How did he buy this building? So yeah, so he trains Daniel in doing this and training and grabbing a chain and walking on coal, and then he takes him to a hockey game where totally this is not how hockey works. He's like, hey, these hockey players are fighting with each other, and they get one of the hockey guys in trouble, which you can't actually do. You can't actually tell a ref that they're fighting with each other and you can't, and they can't actually get in trouble. So this is like, hey, Daniel, I want you to be destroyed for getting me off there. So he's like, so they basically say, hey, we know you. You're from Louisville, Auto. I'd like to take your wife in one of my cars. So Daniel basically beats them all up for, and he's like, where were you? And he's like, not around. And no be there. And so, yeah, so back at Cobra Kai, we meet Kenny. Kenny. We meet Kenny Payne, the brother of Sean Payne from season 3, who is obviously being bullied by this season's villain, who I'm gonna call a villain even though we don't have one this season, Anthony LaRusso. Yeah, who thought that Daniel Thumb would ever be the villain this season? Because he basically bullies Kenny at the pressure of his friend. So he basically So the next thing, he beats up Kenny. Kenny hit him with a basketball. He catfishes Kenny into thinking it's his and Anthony's crush, which he finds out about. So yeah, so they basically get him in this dorky squirrel costume, almost beat him up, but then Kenny hides in a trash can. He's like, hey bro, I need your help. And he's like, karate? I know a guy. Call Robbie. So next episode, Kenny goes to Cobra Kai, and yeah, he goes to Cobra Kai. He's like, I'm here for Robbie, and he's like, hey, and Crease is like, you're interrupting our class, dude. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, if you wanna be in Cobra Kai. Actually, we also learned that as we learned from the Cobra Kai fan that Brooks was kicked out of Cobra Kai in season 3. I guess he didn't die, but they never mention him, or they mention him ever in this season. So I'm gonna guess he either kicked out or Hawk killed him, because I know they would never, because they didn't show him. They didn't show blood in season 3. So in season 4, after the school fight, a lot of people, like those guys that wanted to break Dimitri's arm, and a bunch of other people, just decided, including Kyler's sort of girlfriend, that was Tori's girlfriend, that Tori beat. Tori loves Cobra Kai, so they all love Cobra Kai except for Kyler. So yeah, so anyway, Kenny and Kyler fight, but Kenny runs away, and he's like, hey, I don't have time for cowards, and he tries to fight him again, but then Robbie shows up, and is like, here's your bag. And he's like, hey, how'd you know where I lived? How do you know who I am? And he's like, because of your bag, dude. So he's like, hey, I'm trying to train for the All tournament. I don't need to be your tutor. Until he sees that Anthony and his friend stuffed milk in Kenny's locker. So he's like, hey, I'll give you some food, and so next day, Kenny learns what Robbie said and sucker punches Kyler. So he's like, hey, take your spot, Mr. Payne. So I guess even the actor that was pretty young, said that even though he knows Cobra Kai is bad, he would join Cobra Kai in real life. He still believes that Kane's a... So yeah, so anyway, in episode 4, we see a bunch of training between the Eagle Fang and the Miyagi-Dos. So yeah, so then we see the return of Terry Silver, and he basically gets flashbacks to Vietnam and how Crease saved his life. So he basically comes back to Cobra Kai saying, you couldn't just let sleeping dogs lie. And he's like, you couldn't just let me be. You had to come back in my life and ruin it. And he's like, you're like Terry's like a 57-year-old man holding on to some fantasy. So he's basically, and it's like, ooh, I like her. So Terry basically gets a bunch of calls from his girlfriend and decides to put his hair into a ponytail and joins Cobra Kai as co-sen, which we all knew was going to happen, but because even though Terry said that he was done tormenting teenagers, he's ready to train teenagers to torment teenagers. So, yeah. So, anyway, Hawk gets a new hairstyle, purple, which I really enjoy, until that exact same. So yeah, so Hawk decides when Kenny comes to view his high school. Said to view his high school, new high school, because he's on his final year of whatever school he's in, on his first day. Because they're already viewing his high school already. So, viewing high school already, because he's done middle school. Hawk shows up and he's wearing the Cobra Kai dojo. And he's like, why are you wearing that? He's like, it's my dojo. And he's like, what are they showing? Kindergarten count class. And then Hawk shows up saying, hey, you get a Cobra Kai while you still can. Because they're going down and it's not going to be pretty. So Hawk changes his hairstyle to purple, but then to mix his two colors of blue and red coming together and mix purple. But then, do you know what happened? But then, even though Terry was like, hey, no fighting before a tournament, they decided to fight Hawk and cut off his mohawk, meaning the Hawk lost all his confidence and becomes Eli Moskowitz once more and decides to quit karate. But then Dimitri, like, hey, you told him that it wasn't the Hawk or the mohawk or the back tattoo. It was just you having the stuff. Yeah, so with that, Eli decided to join Miyagi-Do. So yeah, so then we have the party. So back with Johnny, after his split with Daniel and no longer being Miyagi fan anymore, he decides to get girls to join Eagle Fang. But Moon's like, hey, get her ex-girlfriend Piper to join. But then Piper, after Johnny, she's like, hey, I'll think about joining your dojo. But then her friends come up with the new Cobra Kai merch. A link at cobrakai.ca/never, because this is a fake website. So yeah. So they're persuaded, so they join Cobra Kai. So they go to a debate team, and when Devin decides that she would throw some guy's papers down, choke some guy's papers down on his throat, they're like, hey, you can join Eagle Fang. So she basically joins Eagle Fang, and she's obviously, even though it's her first time, so yeah, and she basically kicks every dude in the groin, and that's when Miguel learns that his dad and his mom and his father figure, or co-sensei, and his mom are actually dating, and now Johnny's acting more like his dad now than his sensei, and Miguel had enough. So he's had enough. So at the dance. So meanwhile, now let's go to party, some minefield. So Eli, so this is back on an Anthony focused episode. Anthony decides to lie to Daniel, saying how Kenny is the real victim in all this, how Kenny's the bad boy in all this. Now Eli should how Anthony's just a poor little victim. Give me a break, Anthony. You're already the worst character in this season. So Daniel obviously believes this, and then he's like, so he's like, hey, your first job, Miyagi-Do, is to clean cars. But obviously Anthony doesn't listen to this, and he's like, calls the guy to do it, and Daniel gets mad at him, saying, if Mr. Miyagi were, and he's like, boy, I don't care about Mr. Miyagi. He learns about Sam, but I've never met him, so boy, stop talking about this guy. But he's like, hey, go back to your video game. So he goes and he realizes about how he almost beat up Kenny, because I have to show that. This show, he almost beat up Kenny. So he says, hey, don't worry about this Cobra Kai kid. Get it? Cobra Kai kid. YouTube channel, Cobra Kai kid. Get it? So he basically realized when Anthony was born, Anthony kicked Miyagi in the face. And he's like, hey, and Miyagi was like, this guy would be a handful. And yeah, I do a very good Miss Miyagi impression, don't I? So next day, So the next day at school, Leah invites Kenny and Anthony to a thing, but he's like, hey, little jerko. He's like, don't, he calls him a puss, so. I don't know why I just said that, so I'm gonna keep to little jerko. He's like, don't call him Lapido. And he keeps doing it, so they chase after him. He uses his Cobra Kai instant strike for strike card, no mercy, and attacks Kenny. Attacks Kenny, but a teacher comes up, and Daniel are like, hey, this is Kenny's fault, but Anthony's the victim here. And they're like, no, your son's basically the bully, and Kenny's the victim. So they show him what Kenny's been doing, chasing after him, putting milk into his locker, and then Anthony gets grounded. But they don't. But the next episode, party time, we meet Daniel Ralph Macchio's actual daughter, Julie Macchio, who plays Louis' sister. And she basically tells him that the reason why Anthony is in trouble is because of you guys. You're the reason why, because you chose Sam over your own son. Which is kind of true. Because it's... I get what she's saying. So, yeah. So they're like, no karate. But do what happened? Kenny is training while Robbie and Sam, Robbie and Tori are talking about the junior prom or dance or whatever, and she's like, how she's not going, and he's like, hey, you could be on my date, and then Terry's like, hey, I can make that happen. So then he shows up to Shannon Keen's, gives her a job. Shannon Keene has really gone a long way since her season 1 appearances. She was just a party girl, stopped partying, and now she's in rehab. And now she just has 1 episode appearance in this entire season. Because I guess I couldn't get the actress for the full season. But anyway. So then next, what happens is that Tori and Robbie show up. Robbie's Tori's date, and Terry gave him a car, and yeah. So Aisha also appears in this season. So Stingray appears in this episode after Aisha's appearance in episode 6. Stingray appears in this season, and he's like, "Hey, let me join Cobra Kai again." But Crease is like, dude, you really think I'm gonna let you join Cobra Kai? You were never truly a Cobra Kai. Get out. So Stingray decides to throw a party and I guess he never heard on the news any of this while he's on probation because Bird has to relate him any of these people are not really in Cobra Kai anymore. But he's like, wait, really? So he's like, hey, he's about to throw a party and get after the after party. Yasmin decides to miss out on her dad's wedding or something, or she shows up to hang out with Dimitri, leaving Eli all alone. But then Stingray's neighbor shows up saying about how Stingray, is his only friends are high school students and he really has no friends. So he decides to groin kick his neighbor and break his hand. What's up with this show and them kicking people in their groins? What is up with the private part? What's up with the groins? Why are they kicking them in the groins? What is up with this is really weird. Why? First episode 7 and first episode 6 or first episode 7. Now this. What's up with the groins? So anyway, next episode. So anyway, Sam gets into a fight with Sam and Tori get into a fight. Tori's like, hey, you don't got your mom's. I would fight you, but I'm keeping your mom's secret. And then they just fight. Robbie's like, hey, my dad doesn't really care about you. He's only being with you because he wants to make up for what he did to me, and gets into a fight. It's just like a reversion. I just basically redid season 2's fight, but in a house and with them, and instead of Robbie protecting Tori and Miguel protecting Sam. Basically redid the school fight, but instead it's at a house. So they both fall into the pool. Terry tricks Johnny into going to the old Cobra Kai dojo, which I don't think it's really the old Cobra Kai dojo. I think it's just they're just saying, hey, it's with flashback. So Terry knocks Johnny unconscious, about to fight when Crease is a bit redeemable in this moment because he's basically like, hey, this is not what we're about. Remember what you said? We're supposed to save this for a tournament. But he's like, hey, I'm trying to be loyal to you. Like, come on. I kind of grew a bit of the same love for Crease that I did in the original Karate Kid. A bit. Because Crease is still a psychopath. But at least he's not. So Johnny leaves Crease unconscious. Johnny gets all drunk when Miguel shows up after his fight with Sam. After Miguel's been looking at Tori all day, and then all night, and then Sam decided to fight Tori, even though Miguel told her not to. It's just like, okay. And then what happens is that Miguel goes home. Miguel goes to his house, goes to Johnny's apartment, sees him drunk, puts him in bed, and when he says he loves you, Johnny says, I love you. And he's like, I love you too. And he's like, yeah, Robbie. And you can just see the hurt and trauma in his eyes as he is trying to act this, like he's trying to be like, oh, did he just really say he loves Robbie? Was Robbie right? So then we get to the All Valley tournament, the two-parter. So basically a bunch of montages, Carrie Underwood ruining the show. Just kidding. I know a lot of people say Carrie Underwood ruining the show, and Carrie Underwood ruining the show with a remake of it's called Moment of Truth. They could have done You're the Best Around, and it still wouldn't have been that good. And no one can beat the original guy who did it. And even she's copying Survivor. She could have copied You're the Best Around. They could have just put in Best Around in this episode. Took a Carrie Underwood, put You're the Best Around in, and it wouldn't change the thing. It would have been more epic if they had a redone of You're the Best Around, and no one's gonna ever take you down. But no, they had Carrie Underwood because who cares about pleasing fans with Carrie Underwood? I like country. I just do not like Carrie. I do not listen to Carrie Underwood's music. That's why this bothers me. They put Carrie Underwood in just to put her in. They didn't put her in to say, oh, hey, guys, like Carrie Underwood. I feel like they just put her in because they were like, hey, Carrie Underwood, do you want to be in this? Carrie Underwood, do you want to be in this episode? She's like, sure. So, yeah, so after a bunch of Carrie Underwood scenes, Kenny going all Cobra. So Tori beats Devin. Sam uses both Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do to beat Piper. And then it's Robbie and Kenny. And Robbie's obviously trying to, not fight Kenny, because Kenny's like a son to Robbie. Like, it's his mentor. But Crease is like, hey, is that your friend? Hey, you want to be champ? Is that your friend or is that your enemy? So he basically goes and goes full Cobra, no strike, no strike first, strike hard, no mercy, and breaks Kenny's nose, and he feels bad, but Tori's like, let him cool off. So then we get the semifinal, Eli versus Hawk. So yeah, Eli versus Miguel, and then Miguel is about to do the tornado spin kick that Johnny taught him, but then he breaks his back, which you think it's gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be from season 2, but no, it's just a muscle spasm. Like, what? Like a muscle spasm. So all that crying, like, sad, was for a muscle spasm? You really undid a very dramatic moment show. It would be really cool if it was like from the back injury from season 2, if it was still in effect. But no, it's just a muscle spasm. It's just a muscle spasm. So Johnny's like, hey, get back in there so we can be so you can defeat LaRusso for me. And this makes Johnny realize, like, what is he fighting for? He wants to defeat Hawk because he's trying to beat Eli so Johnny can get back at LaRusso. So he decides to not show up at all because he shows up. Wait, Johnny just cares about himself more than him. So he just decides to not show up. So Hawk decides to fight Robbie. Robbie's realizing how bad Cobra Kai really is because Kenny decides to go full Cobra on Robbie, saying, hey, they're in high school next year and you're gonna be for a lot of pain. Get it? Kenny pain. But Robbie's like, hey, this is your boy, because he kind of grew a bond with Anthony, even though we didn't see it, because obviously Anthony wasn't in that season much, but anyway, yeah, so he's like, hey, Anthony, you're like, he's like, leave him alone. So yeah, so anyway, it's Robbie versus Eli. Eli wins because Robbie decides to. Robbie would have won if it wasn't for Cobra Kai being jerks and him to take out Hawk, because he's realizing how bad Cobra Kai really is. So Eli wins the first bout, but now it's Sam versus Tori. As Tori's going, as Sam's about to do it, Tori goes to see, and she checks, and she bumps into Mrs. LaRusso, and she's like, hey, I hope this whole thing ends this rivalry, and I hope you don't hurt Sam that well. Because they, had that cool bond in this season. So, yeah. But she goes out of bounds, but Tori Sam almost kicks her off the mat, but Tori elbows Sam, but Tori's like, hey, do that again. But Crease is like, oh, nah, don't do that. Go and do your own style. So Tori ends up winning because we learned that Terry paid the referee to count that as an out of bounds, because of course Terry paid it. So now Tori's probably thinking she didn't really win that. So yeah, so back with so now Johnny and Daniel are both out of jobs. But Miguel, he decided to go visit his dad in Mexico. And what happened is that because Carmen's like, hey, Johnny has no idea that Miguel's dad has, whoever his name is, we're probably in season 5, that he has no idea that Miguel is even around. Like, he never knew about Miguel. So Miguel's going to see his dad, who he never knew, who doesn't know about him. And Johnny goes, before that he went to the Cobra Kai dojo, and we learned that they're actually going to the previous location from the other films, from the original films, and he basically feels like he failed Kenny as his mentoree, and they hug, and he's like, and Johnny breaks down, saying that he doesn't dislike Johnny anymore, he doesn't want to hate Johnny anymore, and they make up. He doesn't blame Johnny anymore, and they make up. So they make up. So I hope this continues into season 5, that they continue to be father and son, because I hope this just ends there. Oh, they make up, and then he goes to Miguel, and then Robbie feels betrayed, or Robbie goes with Johnny, because that'd be cool if he has a Miguel rivalry got ended by him going with Johnny to help Miguel find his father, since Miguel never knew about his dad. And so yeah. So anyway, then we see Daniel talking to Mr. Miyagi's grave. Actually, first we see Terry and Crease, and then Crease is talking about how Johnny Lawrence is Crease's weakness, and then Crease is like, no, Terry's weakness. And then we see flashback from the end of episode 7, where Crease, the end of episode 8, where Terry beat up Stingray, and he's like, hey, if you want to join Cobra Kai, you gotta do one thing: paint Crease. Tell the cop that Crease is the one that beat you up, and that's what he does. So they go to arrest Crease. Crease pushes a cop one and gets arrested. So Crease is arrested. Miguel's looking for his father, and then we see the final shot is with Daniel looking at Mr. Miyagi's grave, and he's talking to someone. And who is that? It is season 2 villain and anti-hero in season 3, and hero in season 3, Chosen. And he's like, "Hey Chosen, will you help me stop Cobra Kai?" And they say Yosh, and bow to Mr. Miyagi to end the season. What a great season this was. I may have not liked episode 6. I feel like Kicks Got Chicks was the worst episode for Sam, even though it brought back Aisha. I just didn't like it because of the Sam story. But who is the best character in this season? It is Eli Hawk Moskowitz. Eli is the best character. He gets the best arc. He gets the best redemption. And he even gets the best win. To Hawk, to Eli, the best character. Maybe we'll see him swirl a green mohawk in season 5. He'll probably be back to purple, or he'll have normal hair. I don't know. But Crease got arrested by Terry. Johnny is going with him to go to New Mexico to see Miguel. To get Miguel, because Miguel's dad's obviously a bad person, and also Daniel is teaming up Chosen to take down Cobra Kai. But how they're gonna do that? Who knows? But I'll see you next time for season 5. We'll review it next year or end of the year. I don't know. But I'll see you next time for some more Cobra Kai.